Froslass has literally zero usage in competitive Pokemon, but I think it deserves better than that. It is kind of hard to make a case for it when its stats are this booty, with base 110 speed being like the only thing it's got going for it. But it has a unique typing being the only Ice Ghost, which isn't bad offensively. So look, Froslass has pretty much been used in the same exact way since its inception in Diamond and Pearl, and that's mostly as a dedicated lead. It gets options like Taunt to stop opposing setup, can lay down its own hazards with spikes, has solid stab offensive options in Ice Beam along with Shadow Ball, and with a Focus Sash we guarantee it can live one hit since this thing has paper skin and glass bones. But my personal favorite option is Destiny Bond. With this we can usually outspeed, and by baiting them to knock us out at 1 HP, we then take them down with us. Froslass is the kind of mon that is definitely overlooked, but it always feels like it provides more value than people expect, so let's go ahead and try to get her going. So it's pretty wild to think that I've been using the same Froslass for about 18 years now, since Diamond and Pearl first came out. And this thing is still an absolute unit. If you're into this kind of thing, you should consider hitting that subscribe button. I'm on my way to 400k. I'd love to have you as part of the journey. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into the match. Alright, so my opponent is going to go ahead and lead off with everybody's favorite bulbous brown fella. They got the Clodsire. I lead off with the Froslass. I'm a dedicated lead Frost, and immediately I am feeling like I wish I had Taunt on this thing. You kind of have a little bit of 4-move syndrome, because Taunt would be great in this situation because as I set up a layer of my own spikes, they're going to go for some toxic spikes, and there's kind of nothing stopping this thing from going for all of the hazards in the world. So they get up a layer of T-spikes. I'm like, you know, that's fine. It's not fine. I do not have a rapid spinner or a way to remove hazards, so I'm gonna kind of have to deal with that. Or I don't even have a grounded poison, so guess what? My shit about to get poisoned today, and I get up a second layer of spikes. We're trading spikes. They're like, here's some purple ones, I'm laying some brown ones. There's Legos covering the entire damn battlefield. And now I realize with 2 layers up, I'm like, I should probably get up a third, but also I'm realizing I don't have great coverage on Clodsire. My entire team doesn't have much that wants to hurt this thing. So I go for an Ice Beam, realize it does do over half, but that knocks it down to a Citrus Berry. And this is the most hazardous Clodsire of all time. It has freaking spikes as well. So toxic spikes are set up. They now are starting to go for some regular spikes. And my feet are gonna hurt, needless to say. So, you know what's even worse? They now go for a Stealth Rock. So literally every hazard possible is now on my side of the field. So I'm gonna have to deal with that. That's quite unfortunate. So I do realize, you know, I'm going to be able to pick it off with one more Ice Beam. And at least that's a dead Clodsire. That thing, 3 of its move slots are straight up just to set up hazards. And the one time I don't bring a spinner. So, you know, that's going to make things a little interesting here. Now, as they go into the Sarah Ledge, it is going to take some Spikes Chip. And I'm like, okay, that should be good. I do have a coverage with a Shadow Ball. I know I'm Focus Sash. And I'm faster. So I fire off the Shadow Ball here. It turns out it doesn't hurt it at all. And that's because it's not a Sarah Ledge at all. It's freaking Zoroark. I probably should have known that because, you know, it kind of just makes sense. This now allows them to set up a nasty plot. And while I know an Ice Beam likely doesn't kill here, I'm still not necessarily super worried. That's because Froslass, you know, I've got that Sash intact. And I am not switching this fella out. There's no way I'm swapping. Because I come back in and I'll just take hazards. So I'm like, you know, I might as well stay in here, get knocked down to my Sash. And another Ice Beam should be able to pick this fella off. So I do get knocked down to 1, doing exactly what Froslass loves to do best. I also get an accuracy drop, which hopefully does not hoe me. It does not, because one more Ice Beam is going to take care of it. And just like that, you know, at least the Froslass over here has been able to take care of a couple mons. So with 2 down, I'm still feeling like I might be able to get a little extra value in the form of a cheeky Destiny Bond. So here's the thing, they go Palafin. And while Jet Punch is an obvious play here, I realize I'm just going to click Destiny Bond anyway. I can't swap this thing back in. We're going to see what happens. I go for that Destiny Bond, and as they do not click the priority Jet Punch, they just go for that flip turn. And that was your first mistake, buddy, because now that takes it down with the Froslass, and just like that, I was able to set up a couple layers of spikes. Kind of wish I got 3 instead. But I killed 3. Literally half of their team is gone. Froslass puts in the finest of work, even though I didn't have the taunt. And while, you know, we've got half of their team gone, some of the big threats are out of the way. And now I do have to deal with all of the entire... I'm being bombarded by spiky shit over here. I switch in Grand Bolt because I figure an Intimidate, it might not be a bad idea, which is what they have left. Turns out they do bring in the Meowscarada here. So while they take some spikes, I get poisoned I then touch some regular spikes, and then I touch some stealth rock. So, Jesus, that's a bad way to wake up out of your Pokeball. Like, hey, here, go ahead and step on all these hazards. So, I get an Intimidate, which doesn't really matter for a, Flower Trick crit, but as I go for a Play Rough, they're just going to click Protect, which is annoying because, it's just going to stall out another turn of my poison. Now, this Gramble is kind of a unit. It's built to be able to take attack. It's mostly on the special side with an Assault Vest. But at this point, here's what I'm thinking. They saw me click the Play Rough there. I'm expecting maybe they swap into the Ceruledge, being able to come in, get a Weak Armor or something like that. So instead, I click Earthquake. Turns out, however, they go for a double Protect, and it's annoying. It doesn't go through, but now as I Earthquake the Grass type, it doesn't do much. And now I'm just absolutely getting beat the hell up. The poison got hands over here. I'm at about half health. And at this point, I'm like, this Gramble kind of got screwed a little bit here. They do eventually Flower Trick, which is going to get a crit, but the Tooth Fairy is the GOAT. We live it with 12 somehow. Allows me to then fire off a Play Rough, and that's going to be a dead Masquerada. So, that's a very fast, very scary mon out of the way, and also annoying. The Protect is some nonsense, but that takes care of it. I do use up the Gramble, but at this point in the match, a 1v1 or a 1-for-1 trade is honestly not too bad. So, at this point, we've got ourselves a good old-fashioned empty battlefield, and they have 2 mons left. It's going to be Ceruledge along with the King Gambit. So I'm going to go Galvantula just because I can get some pretty big damage with Thunders. They do go Ceruledge here. They want to save the King Gambit for last. It's obviously going to be its freaking Supreme Overlord ability, but young Kilowatt comes in, takes some spikes, takes some Stealth Rock and Toxic Spikes, and just like that, I'm immediately like already at half, which is fun. So with the spikes, they now no longer have a Focus Sash intact. I can go for a Thunder, and I think that probably kills. It does. I outspeed because Galvantula fast as fuck boy, and that's gonna be a dead sword-handed fellow. So that's a pretty easy knockout there. And now we do find ourselves in the situation you often do whenever there's a King Gambit. It's gonna come in last because now it's able to get a +5 boost to its attack with its damn overpowered ass ability. It gets the Supreme Overlord, and this thing is scary with potential for Sucker Punches. So I expect fully a Sucker Punch to come through. I'm just gonna click the Thunder. I figure, I likely just go down to that. Turns out they're going to bust out a Terra, and that's probably just going to be a Dark Terra to boost it up even further. And this is the situation where these King Gambits can really get out of hand. So it is going to be Dark Terra, and it puts it on his little blade up there, looking menacing. And guess what? They do not click the Sucker Punch. It allows me to fire off a Thunder. It gets a bunch of damage, but more importantly, I get the Para. For whatever reason, they don't go for the Sucker Punch there. Maybe thinking I switch. They instead click the Stone Edge, which just does kill the Galvantula anyway, but hey, I got some great damage and a Para on the thing, so honestly, I will certainly take that. Now, I'm down to 3 mons left, and nothing really wants to deal with a Sucker Punch other than one fella named Paul, the absolute beast over here. I go into the Slowbro, and that's because obviously I'm weak to a Sucker Punch or any Dark Attack for that matter, but I haven't used my Terra yet. Now, I do come in and, of course, just get my shit torn the hell up by some spikes and Stealth Rock and stuff like that, but I can now go for the Ground Terra. What that's going to do is just basically give me a neutral hit from a Sucker Punch. And then I can go for, this is Belly Drum Slowbro, which is pretty damn ridiculous. But with the amount of chip that I have on the thing, I should be able to pick it off. So I go for the Ground Terra. Slowbro in it with a Bull Cut be looking ridiculous. But, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And I actually outspeed because of the Terra, and they don't Sucker Punch. So maybe the over-prediction here, but it lives it on 1. Except it gets fully Parrot, which is kind of just a wild turn of events. And the no Sucker Punches clutch there. If I'm them, I'm mashing Sucker Punches. But I guess it's kind of an obvious situation. Regardless, they're going to head out. And we're going to chalk that one up as a W for the young Froslass. Taking care of 3 mons early. Regardless of Froslass's kind of mid stats and just 0 usage, the thing always provides more value than you would think. A Destiny Bond is really clutch, and as a lead, thing's pretty amazing. So that's now going to bring us into game number 2. We got some more hot Frost action, and you should now hit that like button if you stuck around this far because, help out the channel and all that. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into the next game. All right, so look, this time I've got myself an all-new squad with some all-new shenanigans, and it's a pretty wild one. So my opponent leads off with a Grimmsnarl, which is annoying. I've got myself a Thundurus. And this Cloudy bastard is basically here for a fast Volt Switch. Wasn't exactly sure what they wanted to lead off with. But as Grimmsnarl's here, of course, this fella's just going to go for some screens. Sets up that light screen with the Light Clay going to stick around. I do get a little bit of chip with a Volt Switch, and now I can go into whatever we want on the thing. So, this team, again, I have a whole bunch of options here. First of all, This team requires a little bit of sun. I know we're inside, but I'm going to go into the Ninetales and get up that drought. Now with Heat Rock, that's going to stick around for 8 turns. And I also realized this thing's surely just going to go for Reflect here. But instead, they Thunder Wave, which... that's one way to make me hate Grimmsnarl even more. With the Prankster Thunder Wave, does paralyze me. Luckily though, I do at least get off an Encore. I wanted to Encore this thing into whatever it's going to click, just because it is, you know, just going to be stuck into that, and I'm kind of going to be able to force a switch here. So with that, I am paralyzed, which is annoying, but I'm essentially in a spot here to go for a free Nasty Plot. I figure, hey, you know what, if I get a free Nasty Plot position, you bet your sweet ass I'm going to take it. So as I Nasty Plot, they're going to end up bringing in the Cinderace. Luckily, I do not get paralyzed, which is always nice, and now I'm sitting at +2 special attack. Bad news is I cannot really touch this thing at all, but I figure this thing also can't really touch me, and +2 in the sun, Weather Ball kind of hurts, so they end up now going for an Electro Ball. Check it out, buddy's going, we're throwing balls all over the place. Electro Ball doesn't do anything for some reason, even paralyzed. Electro Ball's damage is based off of how much faster the opponent is than you. Apparently the thing's not that much faster because it doesn't even hurt. And then it goes for a Pyro Ball. So there's been 3 different ball moves in 3 turns, and there's balls all over the damn place. Now luckily I don't get paralyzed again, and another Weather Ball takes care of the Cinderace, which is actually quite satisfying. Now this Ninetales is basically just here to set up Drought, and then kind of heck off, but I mean, I'll take it. So we get rid of Cinderace. Bad thing is I use up more Sun Turns than I would like. Now again, I have a couple Mons in the back that try to take advantage of those Sun Turns, so as they now go Noivern, I don't have a whole lot that wants to hard switch into this, but I realize it's more valuable just having Ninetales around to be able to get that Drought up later. So I am going to swap into Swampert. Now this is the kind of thick, built like gravy fella that can take an attack from pretty much anything. And as they Boom Burst, that actually hurts quite a bit. And it ends up getting a Throat Spray. So now it's got a boosted Boom Burst. And after some leftovers, I'm like, you know, that's actually kind of fine. And Swampert probably isn't going to be able to get great value here. But what I can do is try to set up a little Stealth Rock for later. Potentially break some Sashes and make my job easier in the back. So, bad thing is, it's not happening, baby. They go for the damn Air Slash, and of course it gets the flinch. So, and I've been due for some bad luck lately, and there's a little bit of it. I get the Air Slash flinch, which is kind of whack. They probably could have just gone for a Boom Burst there, but they don't, and I pay for it anyway. Now, another Air Slash does kill the Swampert, so I essentially switch this thing in to just get flinched and killed, which is a tough existence. But the sunlight goes away, which is actually good, because, and the light screen wears off, so we've got ourselves in a spot now where I'm like, you know what, I might as well use this Froslass. They haven't set up their own rocks. I can come in with my Focus Sash intact, and even if this thing is timid and outspeeds me, I still live, and I can kill with an Ice Beam. Now, false alarm, because I just outspeed, bop him with an Ice Beam, and that's a dead-ass, crazy-looking Zubat. So, it turns out that thing was modest with Throat Spray, and that allows me to outspeed, because Froslass do be kind of quick. If there's one thing Froslass does have in terms of stats, it's speed. So, with the Noivern out of the way, that's actually a pretty damn big threat. Now, what's also is a big threat is Big Man Blastoise over here. And this thing is just itching for a Shell Smash. Surely, but it goes for that Smash. And I realize I'm going to go into the Ninetales here. That's just because I can get up the Drought. That's going to make their water damage cut in half and hopefully allow me to live stuff. So, I get that Drought. They, of course, are going to Shell Smash. Buddy's shell is in absolute pieces. Turns into a clam real quick, which is always fun. And now it's going to get that +2 into attack, speed, and the special attack. And of course, it's always going to have a white herb to negate those defensive drops. So all of a sudden, Blastoise, scary as hell. This thing is very fast. It's not going to be faster than a Chlorophyll Jump Pluff to keep in mind for the back. Now, they go for the Ice Beam, probably expecting a switch immediately into that Jump Pluff. But I ain't doing it. I was basically in here to just sack the Ninetales. Now, I also get paralyzed on the turn I was going to Solar Beam. So I'm like, Jesus. Some bad moments for luck here. Now, they outspeed. They can finish me with another Ice Beam, which sucks. So down goes the Ninetales. But honestly, I needed this thing dead anyway, because I can now go into whatever I like. So, my best bet is, first of all, I'm thinking Jump Pluff. But second, I'm thinking, you know what? Hold on. Let me cook for a second. Let me cook for a minute. I'm going to go into the Arboliva. Now, this is because this is a weird Arboliva. I know that an Ice Beam after a Shell Smash, I can live it just barely. It probably does like 85% to me. But I bait that in, they go for the Ice Beam, I do live it in red, which is actually hugely important for this Arboliva. That allows me to now get off a Growth in the sun. We are a grower, not a shower, baby, with +2 special attack. Now we can make it happen, because look, since I'm in range for my berry to activate, I've actually got myself a sneaky Cuss Tap berry, which allows me to randomly outspeed. They're probably so confused. It allows me to go fast because of the Cuss Tap berry. I now fire off a Hyper Voice, and with that growth, it kills it, which is sick. But not only that, you may have thought we were done there. Nope, I have the Harvest. So now I get back the Custap Berry, and I basically go first every turn now, which is sick. Now, the reason why I was kind of reluctant to set this thing up is because of this asshole. The Corviknight comes in, and I do not have Terra Fire, Terra Blast. So while I do get to outspeed very satisfyingly with that Custap, I can go for a Hyper Voice. At +2, it's going to at least do some decent damage. It does like almost half, not quite, but they go for the bulk up. So now I'm thinking, you know, as long as the sun is up, I guarantee I get my Custap Berry back every turn. And with a Hyper Voice crit, we could basically kind of bust the game wide open. Also, shout out to the person who has been commenting like every day on my videos to use Harvest Custap Berry. I believe this one's for you. But I do go first because of it once again. I go for the Hyper Voice, and it doesn't obviously have enough to kill it. So Corviknight is unfortunate. There's not enough move slots for this damn thing. Terra Fire coverage would have been quite nice there, but I don't have it. Allows him to finish me off with the Drill Peck, and just like that, I'm down to 3 mons left. So it's not looking great, but one thing there is a little hope for is that they don't have any Stealth Rock up, and Froslass is in a spot where I basically get to kill something for free, especially with a Destiny Bond later. So since we did get some good chip on the guy, I can actually bring this thing in. I can go for an Ice Beam. That's a dead-ass Corviknight, and that's a fair trade there because, you know, Froslass is just out here taking names. So at this point, they've got 2 mons left. It's going to be the Grimmsnarl that we didn't get much damage on, and then in the back they have a Gengar. So first they go into the Grimmsnarl, which is fine. I realize that it's surely just going to set back up these screens, and this late game is going to get real interesting here. Now, I go for an Ice Beam just to get some amount of damage here. Behind a light screen doesn't do shit, and that's not great. But also, I have kind of a weird spot where I don't have my sun up, but Jumpluff might be in a position here to be able to set up a substitute and then maybe potentially clean up the game if I can get through the Grimmsnarl at least. So I bring this thing in thinking maybe they reflect. Nope, they just go for a Thunder Wave. I come in and my fast freaking Pluff is just immediately not fast, which sucks, but it's, you know, it is what it is. So here they go for a Metronome, which is crazy work. Listen, Metronome is able to go first because of Prankster, and it just is able to select a random move in the Pokemon universe. This thing gets Aqua Step from it, which is fine. It doesn't hurt that much. As I go for an Acrobatics, this Jumpluff just doesn't have an item, so that it has decent damage, but doesn't do a whole lot. And then I'm like, you know what? If they're going to continue to Metronome, surely they're going to get unlucky. I can get up a free Swords Dance, maybe, if I break through. Now they go for another Metronome, get a Psy Shield Bash, which now gives it a defense boost. And I feel like Metronome Grimmsnarl is actually kind of sick. I'm not even going to lie there, but I do break through the Para. Allows me to get up a Swords Dance. And so I was initially planning on maybe being able to get up a Substitute in the face of this thing, which would allow us to take attacks from a Gengar and then kill it, but in hindsight, it wasn't happening. Now look, at this time, they go for the Metronome and get freaking Gigaton Hammer, which is absolutely crazy, it's also crazy that I live it. I live the damn thing and get off the Acrobatics to finish it off. So that was, a shout out to that Grimmsnarl for actually having some fun shit, but now all they've got left is going to be the Gengar, and this fella is obviously going to be able to pick off the Jumpluff. At this point, we've got ourselves a 2v1 match. Now I have a Thundurus, some of the Aeduses, one of the Aeduses, and then I've got the freaking Froslass. And Froslass is kind of my secret weapon here, because of course that Focus Sash is still intact, which is quite clutch. I also know that they do still have a Terra in their back pocket, so before going Froslass, I decided I'm going to go into the Thundurus here, and that's just because I can go for a Prankster Thunder Wave, and that's going to kind of neutralize the fella. Frostlass should be able to outspeed regardless, but now with the Para, they're kind of in the money, and they go for a Will-O-Wisp here, which is fine. I am not any type of physical friggin' God of Thunder, and I'm kind of relying on, Thundurus might be able to just pull this one through. Only for damage, I really just have, like, Volt Switch, which obviously is going to take a couple of them. But Froslass in the back is kind of a guaranteed dub here. I do go for the Volt Switch as they pull out a Terra. Now, I do just want some damage on the thing just in case of a Focus Sash, which would be very unfortunate if, I lose to that. But they bust out their Terra. It turns out it's just going to be Ghost Terra. So, just going to increase damage on a potential Shadow Ball here. Gengar kind of looks sick with that on, I'm not going to lie. So I outspeed, get that Volt Switch off for a little bit of chip, which is nice. But now I'm in a spot where my only option to bring in is just going to be Froslass. But again, we're not worried because of that Focus Sash. So I bring in the Lass, and we're like, hey, how's it going out here? Hopefully there's no Shadow Balls in my face. It's going to be Hex. Now that's pairing with the Will-O-Wisp there. Makes sense. But a Hex after a Ghost Terra is enough to just bring me down to my Sash, which is sick because here's the thing. I can outspeed the Gengar for sure, And as the light screen wears off, I'm thinking a Shadow Ball should do the trick. If it doesn't, I decided what's way more fun is actually just to go for the Destiny Bond here. the Kamikaze is kind of lit because they're forced to go for the attack here. Luckily they don't get parried. They do bust out the Sludge Bomb and that kills the Froslass. But since I do have the Thunderous in the back, the Destiny Bond takes care of the Gengar, and that's a big old W. So Destiny Bond is just fun to click, and that's, you know, name of the game right there. That's a dead Gengar, and that's going to be the end of it. So kind of just a couple ridiculous games, but Froslass is always the kind of fella that just gives you some pretty good value, and I just love this mod. So thank you very much for watching. I appreciate all the support, and I will catch you guys later. Peace out.